Hi. Greetings from Wisdom Lord Raphael. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell icon and don't miss any content. This is the light novel of that time I got reincarnated as a slime. If you haven't watched previous video, I will leave the link on the description box, or you can click here. Let's start. This is Tensura Light Novel Volume 17. Tensura Light Novel. Volume 17. Fragments Across Space-Time. Chapter 2. Distant Memories. Imperial Meeting. Let's get started. With a word from Akira Sakura, the main conference began. Then I will give the report. That said, it was a naval intelligence officer who stood up. The last few days had been pretty much the same, but today was different. The enemy coalition fleet has made a port call at Atlantis. Are you sure? Yes, sir. The call came from a local intelligence officer, so there's no doubt about it. It's still the largest military port among the several supply areas, you know. But how can you be sure it's not a deception? As you say, there are several archipelagos in the Great South Sea. There was also a report that Azalia is setting up a secret base there. Have you sent agents there as well? The general asks, and the Minister of the Navy follows suit. The intelligence officer answers those questions without hesitation. There are too many of them to reach all the islands, sir. However, the number of enemy ships remaining in port at Atlantis matches the information we received prior to our sortie, and the possibility of a separate fleet has been eliminated. An Imperial Navy warship has been captured. They're planning to stay here and work on their maintenance to frustrate our will to fight. The Imperial Navy's crushing defeat was already known to the Imperial headquarters. So no one is surprised now, but they can't keep quiet when they hear that their ship has been captured. The enemy's movements were superimposed. And, have any of our ships succeeded in escaping? No, of course not. If there was, they would have contacted us long ago. The surprisingly brazen chief of staff pointed out. He seems to have cooled off, as he said he would, and his point is accurate. As you say, Mr. Chief of Staff, I believe it is safe to assume that every ship in our fleet has been captured. Tis. Then it's as if we've already increased the enemy's strength. It can't be helped. We were dealing with an unknown enemy, a demon. Even if it were me in the room, the result would have been the same. The chief refutes the army minister's statement. Excuse me. I didn't mean to insult the Navy. It's just that I'm frustrated. I accept your apology. We all have the same regrets. The meeting was tense. They are in the tightest situation since the beginning of the Empire's history. The Imperial fleet, which had prided itself on being the strongest in the world, had been defeated. Moreover, many ships, including the most advanced ones, have fallen into the hands of the enemy. Everyone was anxious and worried about the unprecedented danger. There was no point in complaining, but even a whine would still pop out. If the commander-in-chief hadn't acted like a grown-up, the situation would have been even bleaker. In a slightly relaxed atmosphere, Akira Sakura, not missing the opportunity, opens his mouth. So, are our soldiers still being held as prisoners of war? That question makes the naval participants tense. The safety of their comrades, their loved ones, is a cause for concern. Of course, they were important to the army as well, a matter of great importance to their comrades, and also of great consequence to their future plans. If this were a normal war, the wartime agreement would have guaranteed the safety of the prisoners of war. But this time, that premise could be undermined by the involvement of an unknown invader. If it was the same as before, fine. If it wasn't. His gaze fell on the intelligence officer. That is. What's the matter? Get on with your answer. The stagnant intelligence officer stammered but was urged by his superior officer to continue. According to eyewitness reports, a group of Imperial Navy generals were steering the captured vessel with their own hands. There were also enemy soldiers on board, but they were in very small numbers. There was no sign of gunfire, and it appeared as if they had turned over of their own volition. It was natural to stammer, everyone thought. And the same was true of Akira. A proud soldier of the Imperial Guard would never abandon his duties so easily. And moreover, it was unthinkable that he would turn over to the enemy. That wouldn't make Kondyu-san, who risked his life for it, any happier. Minamoto's murmurings echoed through the silent chamber. It is better to believe in the possibility of being controlled by a demon. That is the true feelings of everyone present. And Valgren cheerfully affirms that thought. Silly. Don't worry. None of your friends are going to betray you. It was Valgren. The naval officers could not believe that their comrades had betrayed them, and they were puzzled by the circumstantial evidence that suggested it. That's why they found hope in Valgren's statement. What do you mean by that, Ryo Dono? The Minister of the Navy asks on behalf of everyone. Valgren smiled and replied. It's simple. Demons have the ability to possess people. They're new and don't have much power in our world, but by possessing people and taking their bodies, they can slowly become more and more powerful. They don't have much magic element as a source of power, and it will take some time for them to fully assimilate, don't you think? That was exactly the hope. I see. So they're being controlled after all. If it takes so long to assimilate, does that mean we can help them now? We can't allow them to mock our friends. We will destroy you, demons. We must immediately launch a rescue mission. Wait a minute, things aren't that easy. The chamber was in an uproar. Some wondered how she knew so much about it, but then they reminded themselves that it was no surprise when she was Emperor's trump card, and they accepted her word with open arms. Then they all agreed on rescuing their comrades, but then they remembered that it was a conundrum and regained their composure. To begin with, the Empire has just lost the war for its own survival. A rescue mission is not something that comes easily to mind. First of all, there weren't enough ships left in the kingdom. 6 aircraft carriers. 4 battleships. 4 heavy cruiser ships. 2 light cruiser ships. 18 destroyer ships. After losing so many ships, even if they could gather them from all over the Empire, they could only gather less than half of these ships. They would only need to assemble a single fleet. If they were sent to rescue everyone, then the defense of the mainland would become a challenge. But the world's leaders are aware of the current situation. Shouldn't we make peace in secret and concentrate on the true enemy, the demons? Everyone knows that. This is impossible with the army in its grasp. Other countries are not happy, but they are the same as us. We have not been able to keep track of the army troops we have sent to China. And more importantly, we've just been robbed of our decisive force. Even if the leadership had made peace, it wouldn't have solved anything. There's no way to announce an end to the war if the military is still out of control. Therefore, the first step in resolving the situation is to deal with the demon. Before that, there was a concern that everyone was aware of but couldn't say anything about. What was it? Is there anyone here in possession of the demon? It was the Minister of War who finally uttered it. From the way he stared at the naval participants, it was obvious what he was thinking. Huh. Do you doubt us? No, I don't think that's what I said. But from what you've just told me, I'm sure you can't blame me for suspecting it. Don't be ridiculous. If you say that, then so does the army, they're running amok in China. Nah, that's. The atmosphere in the chamber was almost engulfed in a terrible atmosphere, but it was interrupted by Akira Sakura. The good news is that our brave soldiers are safe. It is only natural that we should rescue them, but can we really achieve this by squabbling here? I'm sure you know the right answer, brave men. Yes, your majesty. I beg your pardon. With those words, everyone became calm. It's a very dignified thing to say, but for Akira, he still felt like he was walking a tightrope. Simply being upset won't solve the situation, so there is no choice here but to strongly rebuke. He can understand the anxiety of the officers, but Akira Sakura also felt frustrated at his inability to do anything. Ryu Odono, I understand the war minister's concern, but are you able to distinguish between humans and demons? It was Jensei who asked this question. If they couldn't tell friend from foe apart, then they couldn't talk about anything. That's the premise for all of their countermeasures. It was quiet again in the chamber as everyone waited for Velgrin's answer. There's no way any of them are. If there were, I would have told you first. Everyone was relieved to hear that. Yes, that's right. The same was true for Jensei. If a demon of the heavenly demon class had transformed into a human being, there was a chance they couldn't tell them apart. If even Velgrin here couldn't do it, then there would have been nothing left to do but give up. There was still hope, Jensei felt. But Velgrin was different. I'm surprised. Can't you even tell if you're one of them or not? Demons, I call them phantoms, but they possess people because they have to. So that they can live in this world. And once they've fully assimilated, they can no longer be considered human. If assimilation isn't complete, the barrier guarding this imperial city should be enough to see through it. They may be able to transform into humans, but their very nature is foreign. It's because of such instability that they won't go out until stable, Velgrind explained. And you see, the lowest ranking grunts are wise, but not self-aware. They're small fry who follow orders from their superiors, so you can figure them out with a quick questioning. The memory of a possessed person can be read, but it is only the surface level. If you ask about the deeper parts, they will not be able to answer and will get messed up. When Velgrind explained this, the mood in the chamber was one of relief. The explanation continued further. It was until this time that the meeting was serious. From this point forward, Velgrind was on her own. Since you don't seem to know anything about it, I have to tell you that there is a definite hierarchy of ranks among the phantoms. That soldier you just mentioned is a small fry. And since they're only one level of strength away from being fully assimilated, they're only as strong as the most advanced demon Yaokai. It's easy to say that it's an advanced demon, but it's a level of danger that requires a task force. However, the Velgrind could not care less. Ruryu Odono, does that mean that if they fully assimilate, this soldier will become a heavenly class demon? The minister of the army asked, to which Velgrind replied firmly. Clever man, you're right. Huh? The army minister's exclamation wasn't because he felt ridiculed. He was speechless at the desperate situation of the lowest ranked soldiers, being the equivalent of the heavenly demon class. The temperature difference between him and Velgrind was so great that it was pitiful. There was no one here who could laugh at the army minister. They all felt the same way. Why are you surprised? If that was the case, even Gensei can beat it. If Yari commander class who commands a group of soldiers, they may have a hard time, but they can't beat him. The lower ranked commander class is equivalent to the A rank in strength in the other world, but until their possession is complete, they are only slightly stronger than the B rank. Once it was fully assimilated into the mythical dragon class, it would be an inevitable struggle. But even so, Velgrind decided that Gensei would be enough to defeat it. It pains me to say this, he said, but against two of them, even Kondu lost. I don't want you to get your hopes up. You shouldn't be so weak. Kondu stuck to his beliefs until the end, you know. That reminds Gensei. He realized that he had been weak. Then, he realized how blind he had been. He could feel the heat of the sword at his side. That primed Gensei to regain his confidence. Yes, you're right. If we act weak, we will lose battles that could have been won. Right. Well, if you're feeling weak, I'm here, so there's no way you can lose. It was Velgrind who ruined Gensei's resolve. Just like that, the flow of the main conference has changed. Velgrind's explanation continued. The higher up they are, the stronger they are, but their energy is too high for them to come into our world. Maybe they're only here now up to the lower echelon, the general level. So. Wait. What is it? The explanation was interrupted, and Velgrind grimaced. Had it not been in front of Akira Sakura, she wouldn't have forgiven anyone for interrupting her. Well, the ranks of the Phantom, are we to assume that they are the same as those of the military? Are you doubting my language skills? No, I don't mean to, but it does raise the question of whether there is a lieutenant or colonel rank between commander and general. It was the minister of the navy who heard about it, but this was on everyone's mind as well. It may be insignificant to Velgrind, but to the inhabitants of this world, they are a desperate opponent. If Gensei Dono is going to have a hard time, would the commander class be the equivalent of a mythical dragon demon? Yes, I think that's the same opponent that Kondu lost to, so it's almost certainly true. Then how strong is a general? He's as strong as a mythical dragon class or even a god Buddha class. Since it cannot be beat by humans, it is classified as a god Buddha class. If such an opponent attacked, any resistance was meaningless. One by one, their faces grew pale as they realized this. So perhaps Kondu had been defeated by this general. Maybe so, but I'm not interested. I don't care either way. It doesn't matter who you lose to, Velgrind doesn't care. All that mattered was the fact that you had lost. Oh yeah, and since I remember, I should tell you that there are only two ways for a phantom to appear in this world. Either you go through the underworld gate or you're summoned by a superior. I'm guessing he was summoned because there would be no gate at sea. The general could have called in more than 10,000 of them, Velgrind said in a light-hearted tone. To the listener's point of view, it was a hopeless number. Everyone could only stare at the Velgrind in awe. Would Ryu Dono, can you win? That was the only hope the minister of the navy asked. That's a ridiculous question, he thought to himself and started laughing. Even against an enemy general level unit, this enemy would be powerful enough to destroy mankind. And now that it leads its subordinates, there is nothing they can do about it. No matter how strong the mysterious woman who called herself Ryu was, there was no way she could take on the Legion individually. Isn't the opponent an army of god class with unimaginable power? In all times and places, we have only heard of stories of man's victory over the gods in myths. Isn't there no choice but to pray that the world will not be destroyed? The chief of staff and the army minister felt the same way as the navy minister, and so they followed suit. Velgrind snickered. Silly you. If anyone could beat me, it would be only Feldway, the king of the phantoms, wouldn't it? But I don't intend to lose, and he won't be able to manifest himself over here. Why do you know the name of the enemy king, and so many other questions? But no one was there to point them out. It occurred to them that this woman should be no different. There was one thing they had to make sure of. I don't doubt that you are strong, Ryu-sama. So I would like to ask you. It was the Inspectorate General of Education who had been silent the whole time and had watched the proceedings with great courage. He was one of the 3 secretaries of the army and a mediator in the event of a conflict. Velgrind turned to the Inspectorate General. What is it? This country is on the verge of extinction, so will you then go out and take on the enemy? No, I will not. Because I have only one life left. Of course, that was a lie. With her parallel existence, it is possible to defeat the Enyi while protecting the Emperor. But there's no reason to tell them that. Velgrind used her identity as the guardian of the Emperor as a shield and declared that she would devote herself to his protection. For one reason only. It's a calculated decision. One cannot grow further if they only look to others for help in times of trouble. She doesn't think a country like that would have a future anyway. If that was the case, then it would be the same even if everyone died here. Velgrind is affectionate and has not yet abandoned this country or mankind. If this were Velzard, she would not have let those with such a feeble mind live. Before she set out on her journey, she would have thought that she would take care of everything until Redred died, but anything after that was of no concern to Velgrind. But now she can see the bigger picture. This, too, was a change that came about because of her encounter with Rimuru and his perspective. All that mattered to Velgrind now was Rudra and his beloved people. And to protect the bloodline that goes on and on. That's why, as always, she makes sure that the people left behind will be able to do something when she's gone. The words are harsh, but Velgrind declares that she will not move out. But don't worry. Your Majesty will be safe with me. So I suggest you do the best you can. In short, it was a matter of showing some guts. That's all for today, hope you guys enjoy it. Please check my other videos. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and hit the notification icon. And don't miss any updates. Thank you for watching.